This opening shot is drone footage above the 7 buildings at Ready Lake Camp. You can also see some snowmobile tracks around the buildings. Now in this shot here, also from the drone, you can see by looking at the trees how sparse the vegetation is. It's very easy to drive snowmobiles between the trees, very easy to lay out tracks, and that also means eventually it'll be very easy to do tote roads, truck trails, camp roads, to be able to move people and equipment back and forth amongst the large 500 kilometers we've got. What you're looking at right now are the 2 snowmobile trail breakers, Dixon and Scott, and they're riding up the ridge behind the Ready Lake Camp. And interestingly, that ridge is one of the places where our gravity result needs to be drilled. Here's another drone shot. This one is from that ridge looking backwards. And because everything's covered in a white blanket, it's really hard to spot the Ready Lake Camp, but we'll zoom in on it here. On the right hand side of the screen where there's no trees, that's the lake itself. And on the left hand side, there it is. You can start to see the 7 buildings of the camp. So there's 6 in a row and then 1 down by the water. We'll zoom in a little bit closer here. You'll probably get to see, yeah, I think that's one of our geologists walking around, and there's a snowmobile parked on what we call Broadway, which is the walkway connecting all the buildings. It's under snow, you can't see it right now, but it's in our summertime videos. There you can see some of the sleighs that we use. There's one tied up behind the snowmobiles. Everything that we have, we tow behind our snowmobiles to get it to camp. So that's the food, the clothing, the heaters, the gear, the tools, the rock saws, rock hammers. And we were smart enough to leave some fuel at camp at the end of summer, so we had some fuel waiting for us here. And there's a nice zoom out. And we're going to have a jump here in a second, and the jump will take us to video footage of a GoPro that I have on my helmet. Here's the jump. Okay, so now we're traveling on a road which takes us from the town of Shefferville to Lake Atikamogan. It's a 12-kilometer road. As you can see, it's plowed regularly. It's a gravel road, so when it's covered in snow, it's bumpy for snowmobiles, but you're able to make great time to get from the town to the water's edge. This is, like I said, it's a GoPro that, because of the cold, we usually only get about 20 minutes of GoPro time on a couple of hours, sometimes 3 hours ride from Shefferville to the camp, depending on which route we take. Okay, coming up next is a shot of a charging station. So this is halfway between the town of Baie-Comeau and the town of Labrador City. And here we are back at camp. But the reason why we showed that charging station is because the idea that we can have electric trucks at camp and not have helicopters as much, or maybe helicopters at all, is an important one to get our costs down and get our emissions down. So how do we get the trucks there? Using that station would help. Now what we're looking at is the indoor shots of the bed and breakfast we stay at when we're in Shefferville. It's called the Guest House. It's been there 60 years. I would describe it as cozy. And we're just gonna have some closing shots here of buildings and people in the region. So there's Dixon, one of our snowmobile trail breakers, with his machine. And there's a nice shot of snow on the trees.